I don't know what the rest of you guys are doing in your speech classes, but I'm just kidding. I'm happy to be here. You know, I just love children. They're so sweet and, yeah, innocent, and they cry at random times. It's just awesome. I want to show you some really, really cute pictures of some kids. Look at these kids. They're from Africa. See that bright, shiny, happy smile that they have, that desire to go out and play? Look at these boys, ready to be men, want to be tough, want to change the world. But would you believe there's actually something very startling that both of these sets of kids have in common? I'll help you out. First, they're orphans. Okay, kind of shocking. Second thing they have in common, they both, or all of them, have AIDS. They were born with it. Their mom passed it on to them. Shocking, huh? Look at this map. This is a map of Africa that shows the percent of populations and nations in Africa that have AIDS. So you see like these really dark red countries in South Africa. Nearly 30% of the population has AIDS. That's shocking. Now my purpose today is not to convince you that AIDS is a problem in Africa. That's a fact. There's no debating that. My purpose today is to convince you that you and I are the ones that need to make the difference. Specifically to do that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what AIDS is, give you some realistic statistics, and explain how you can get involved. So first, what is AIDS? According to avert.org and AIDS.org, which are both organizations designed to help stop the spread of AIDS, AIDS is a virus that attacks the immune system. In this visual, as you can see, provided by National Geographic, the dark red spots is the HIV virus, which leads to AIDS. It's using a healthy immune cell to propagate itself. Now, over time, what happens is that so much of the immune system is attacked and used by the AIDS virus that the immune system becomes too weak to fight off simple diseases. And so people die as a result of just very common diseases that you and I would be able to fight against. Now, according to Mark Shikoski, a registered nurse who's a specialist in AIDS prevention, unfortunately, there's no cure to AIDS. But there are some very simple, some very inexpensive, and some very usable drugs that can help stop the spread of HIV virus in a person and extend their lifespan and improve their quality of life. And get this, for mothers that already are infected with the HIV virus, if they're willing to do some very simple things and take some medicine, the likelihood that their child will receive the HIV virus in them can be reduced to 2 or 3%. That's 2 or 3%. That's outstanding. The problem is that nobody knows about this, and there's not the funding for poor women in Africa to receive the help that they need. We need to be the ones to educate, and we have to be the ones to provide the funding so that people can receive those important medicines. So maybe you're thinking, oh, Stephen, but Africa is so big. I can't grasp that. Well, let's return to our map of Africa. Look at the country of Zambia. It's one of those darker red countries. Now, Zambia has some very startling statistics. Nearly 400 people every day die in Zambia because of AIDS. That's probably double the size of the group of people that are in this room. And approximately 50%, half of all the hospital beds in Zambia, are filled with people who are suffering with HIV-related causes. And 50% of all children in Zambia have lost at least one parent to AIDS-related causes. And get this, there's nearly 1 million children in Zambia that need help with AIDS, and only about 20% of them are getting the help they need. That is startling. And I hope that you can put your mind on that. So hopefully by now you're thinking, okay, I can wrap my mind around that. I can make a difference. I can do something. But what should I do? Well, those statistics I just shared with you were provided by an organization called Tiny Tim and Friends. Tiny Tim and Friends was started by Dr. Tim Mead. Dr. Tim Mead is just one regular doctor. He decided that he wanted to go to Africa and make a difference. He thought, you know, I'm a doctor. I can go, I can help. I'm just one person, but I can do something. So he went to Zambia, and he started helping people with AIDS. And he met this lady, and this lady was dying of AIDS. And as she was dying, she took her infant that was infected with HIV and placed it in the arms of Dr. Tim Mead and said, Dr. Mead, I am dying, but will you take this child and will you care for him? And Dr. Tim Mead, out of the graciousness of his heart, honored her request and adopted this young boy. And as a result of that, Dr. Mead and some of his family and friends started an organization called Tiny Tim and Friends. This is a non-profit organization that specifically targets helping orphans in Zambia overcome the effects of AIDS and HIV. You'll notice here I have some of the contact information. If you have something to write it down right now. My challenge to you is tonight, when you go home, to Google Tiny Tim and Friends. Just look it up. Look at their mission statement, look at what they do, how they can have volunteers, the kind of help they need, and see if that's something that you want to do. They specifically provide education and treatment and housing and testing for these desperate orphans in Zambia who need help. But the help's not going to happen unless you and I are the ones that do something. We're the ones that are blessed to live in the most prosperous nation in the world. We have to be the ones that do something. So today, I've shared with you a little bit about AIDS. I've talked about some pretty startling statistics, and I've talked about how you can get involved. Now, I understand that maybe my reasoning and my logic hasn't convinced you that this is something that you should get involved with. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I understand. But I want you to take just a second and look back into the eyes of these boys. There is no future and there is no life for them. There's no iPod, there's no cell phone, there's no final exams. These boys have nothing unless you and I take our life and our future and give some of that to them. So if I can't convince you to go home and look up Tiny Tim and Friends, then I hope that looking in their eyes, their desperate pleading eyes, will motivate you to do something different. I testify that we are all children of a God that loves us, and that these aren't just people in some distant and remote land that are going to solve their own problems. These are our brothers and sisters, and we have to be the ones that stand up and make a difference. So please, use your life and use your future and give it to them.